All right, let's get to the topic of the day. And unless you've been living under a rock for the last few weeks, it is a topic that you probably have at least heard a little bit about. Over the last few weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever it is, there have been various reports that the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the ACC, basically the three non-power conferences that aren't the SEC and aren't the Big 12, if you still want to include the Big 12 as a power conference, those three conferences were working together to put together an alliance where basically they all move forward together in making decisions on the future of college football, the future of college athletics as a whole. That became official on Tuesday. We had a press conference. All three commissioners were there. They were all delivering the same message. They were all answering questions in the same way. They all had the same Zoom background. But the bottom line is this: the long-awaited alliance between the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the ACC is official. It is on paper. They have agreed to move forward. So why is this topic important and how did it come about? Let's get into that a little bit, because it all really comes back down to the story of the entire summer in college sports. And it's funny, right? And I've talked about it a lot on this channel, on my podcast, everything. The idea that really, we thought there were big stories kind of throughout the summer. The one-time transfer, how does it change college sports the way that we know it? And name, image, likeness. Those stories are big, don't get me wrong. But the story that truly shook college sports to its core was Texas and Oklahoma announcing that they were ultimately going to leave the Big 12 for the SEC. And the reason it shook college sports to its core was because it appeared to be on paper the start of another round of realignment. And in talking to people across college sports, the scary part was you just had no idea when it was going to end or how it was going to end. But now we at least have some clarity, because really what Tuesday's announcement was about it wasn't about necessarily what you think it was about this scheduling alliance and about this and about that. No, this is what it was about. It was about two things. It was about, one, these other three conferences making sure that they didn't end up like the Big 12, that they're going along, everything's going well, everybody's having a good time, holding hands, doing a sack race at the company picnic, and then next thing you know, your two best programs are leaving your conference. And I do think there was some fear that could potentially happen, that USC and the Pac-12 might look at some other options, that Clemson and Florida State, we heard the report that they might be looking for some other options, that Ohio State could break off and do their own thing in the Big Ten. With this alliance, what it says is this. It says the three conference commissioners came together with the support from the 41 school presidents in those three conferences and basically said, we ain't going to stab any of y'all in the back the way that the SEC stabbed the Big 12 in the back. And again, to be clear, I don't blame Greg Sankey. If Texas and Oklahoma want to come, you don't say no. But essentially, it is these three conferences saying what happened to them is not going to happen to us. The second thing that came out of this, and the reason that I believe that this happened, is because it is these other three conferences standing up to the SEC, and again, kind of what I just said, saying we are not going to let you push us around, and we are not going to let you dictate the future of college football, and to be blunt, not let you dictate the future of college football along with ESPN. Because at the end of the day, you can't deny that the SEC is the most powerful entity in college sports. Nobody would argue that. But it's going to be hard for the SEC, as powerful as they are, even with Texas and Oklahoma. They can't be making any big picture decisions for the good of college football without Ohio State having a seat at the table, without Notre Dame having a seat at the table, without Clemson, USC, Oregon, UCLA. Like, some of these schools do need to have a seat at the table. And so ultimately, I would say this in terms of what we got out of Tuesday. If you like college sports the way that it is right now, the regionality of it, the fact that different conferences kind of play different styles and they all get together in this playoff and we kind of figure it out, the fact that, it does still in some ways feel like amateur sports, even if it doesn't feel quite the same as it did 10 or 15 years ago. If you like where college sports are now, then Tuesday was a good day for you, because the SEC is not going to run over everybody else. The SEC is not going to pull 10 or 12 other schools and break away from the NCAA. College football is kind of going to go forward as it is. Now, in terms of what it means going forward, I believe three things really it means. I think, first of all, if you want a 12-team college football playoff, again, it's a good thing. Why is it a good thing? Because what these three conferences are basically saying is we're actually in favor of the college football playoff expansion. The Pac-12 commissioner actually outright came out and said it during his press conference. What they are not in favor of was Greg Sankey and three other guys, one of which he stabbed in the back, making all the decisions behind the scenes for how he believes the future of college football should look. And so I found it very interesting that the conference commissioners on this call basically said, yeah, we're in favor of a college football playoff expansion, but the cool part is as we work together, we are going to make sure that it's equitable for everybody and not just the SEC. So one, if you're in favor of college football playoff expansion, today was a good day. It might look a little bit different than we thought. Greg Sankey might not have as much power in shaping it, but listen, even if you're an SEC fan, let's be honest. The 3, 4, 5 best SEC teams in the country in any given year are going to be in that playoff. So I don't think if you're a team that finishes third in the SEC, today is a day to worry. The college football playoff is going to be expanded. The Pac-12 and the Big Ten and the ACC just want more say in how it's expanded, but ultimately there's going to be a lot of SEC teams in that playoff. Secondly, I do think this kind of pumps the brakes on expansion. And it goes back to what I just said a minute ago. Look, I'm not saying that there cannot be some type of expansion or realignment. The Big 12 right now is kind of on this island where it doesn't appear as though nobody wants their teams. So yes, maybe they are going to try to poach a Houston or a UCF or a Memphis from the AAC. Maybe they try to poach a Boise State from the Mountain West. Maybe they try to poach a BYU from wherever. I'm not saying that we aren't going to get any type of realignment. But I think the crazy wide-scale realignment that some of us thought might be coming, it does not appear as though it is going to be that. The SEC seems happy at 16. There really isn't anybody out there outside of Notre Dame and a couple teams in this alliance, Clemson, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, schools like that. There's really nobody out there that really would help the SEC. So I think the SEC is good at 16. And these other three conferences are like, we ain't stealing from any of y'all. So, yes, there could be a little bit of movement here and there. And, yes, there could be, the Pac-12 commissioner even said they'd consider it going forward. But if there's nobody out there that's really going to help your TV product, and if you don't have to worry about other people poaching your schools, then I don't know that realignment is that eminent on a grand scale. Again, the Big 12 might try to take a few teams. If they take them from the ACC, the AAC might try to take a few teams. But at the end of the day, realignment is not going to be this crazy, insane process that we were expecting. And really that brings me to my third point on what we got out of Tuesday. We got a little bit of stability in college football. And I'm not saying that college football isn't going to be crazy behind the scenes like it always is. But like I said, this alliance makes sure that it's not going to be just another 2, 3, 4 years of backstabbing and stealing, and this school's going there and that school's going there, and all of a sudden USC's part of the Big Ten and Ohio State breaks off and does this and Notre Dame has to do no. It means that the four conferences that are basically power conferences at this point, the Pac-12, the ACC, the Big Ten, and probably the SEC, are going to stand pat. I would say in general, I also think this is a good thing for college football as a whole. I respect the heck out of Greg Sankey. I respect the heck out of the SEC. I'm not dumb enough to argue that anyone other than the SEC is the best conference in college football, but I also don't know that it's good for one conference, one set of 16 schools to have all of the power over everybody else. I think this evens the playing field a little bit. I think decisions will be made going forward for the good of the sport as a whole, not just the SEC. And again, it doesn't mean that the SEC cannot make their own decisions in terms of their own teams, in terms of what is right for them. No different than this time last year when they decided to play college football when some of the other conferences decided not to. But overall, I think today is a good day. I think that if you like college football and college sports the way that it is, well, today is a wonderful piece of news as the ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big Ten are sticking together, and I do think this will help create some stability in college football. If you like this video, do me a favor, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. A lot of good college football content coming all fall long. Also, make sure to find me on Twitter at Aaron_Torres. Find me on Instagram at Aaron Torres Pod.